Nolan from Vizu. Today I wanted to talk about something that can be a little bit frustrating when working in 3D, and that's the fact that not all materials are created equally. What I mean by that is if you're working with PBR textures, you'll know that some materials just kind of drag and drop in and work and look great, while others tend to be a little bit more complicated and you're going to need to put some more work into them. One such use case is Velvet. As you can see in Blender here, I have created a bit of a node web here that can be a little bit daunting to newcomers, especially people who don't have a lot of experience in 3D. And I just wanted to showcase a simple way to take materials from our Xtext scanner today and be able to utilize them with a similar result inside a program like Blender without having to know what all of these nodes do and using a lot fewer nodes. So creating a tree that's just more simple so people can get more easily into using these types of materials. And to get started, I'm just going to import the U3M file. I've already scanned and tiled this material inside Xtext. So I'm just going to bring in that U3M. I'm also going to go ahead and switch over to Eevee, just so things are a bit smoother. Make sure I'm in rendered here. And then let's go. So I'm in the shading tab here because I really want to focus on the shader I have. I am just going to close the toolbar there so we can see more. And I'm going to start deleting nodes that I don't need. So I don't need this metadata node. I don't need this geometry node. I don't need this mix front and back or mix displacement node. What I do need is a mix shader node. So if you press Shift A here inside the window, the search bar will pop up. This is a node that I've been using, so it's already here. But if you were to just start typing in mix, you'll see the mix shader node there. And I'll be doing that a few times over the course of the video. And then I am going to actually copy and paste this whole thing. I want a duplicate of it. So to duplicate in Blender, you can just press Shift D on your keyboard so that I have two instances of all of these nodes here. And I'm just going to start organizing things a little bit. And in my mix shader node, I am going to connect the two BSDF shaders I have here, and then I'll go ahead and connect that to the surface. So now we can see the material looks the same as it did before. Nothing's changed quite yet. This is just going to allow us to make things a little bit more modular and modifiable. Okay, cool. Next, I'm going to select the texture chord and global sides nodes, and I'm going to duplicate those as well, Shift D. And then I'm going to add in a new node, Shift A, and choose the image texture node. This is what allows us to bring in just a regular image texture. I'm going to connect the vector to the vector slot. I'm just going to set the scale back to 1 so things are a little bit cleaner and we can adjust from there. And then I am going to open the image node. And I have created a noise texture using a free noise texture creator online. This is a Perlin noise texture. If I were to show you this image, it is just like a staticky noise texture. For those of you who have worked with these before, this will look pretty familiar. For those of you who haven't, this is a very common type of image to work with when working with shaders in 3D. So I'm going to bring in that noise texture. I'm going to change the color space to non-color since it's a black and white image. That'll help us connect this to other nodes a little bit more easily as well. And then the next node I want to add is called a color ramp node. And this will add in this little black and white slider here, and we can connect our color to that. And I'm actually going to make 2 duplicates of this color ramp. I'm going to put one over there, and I'm going to put one up here. And the last node I actually want to add is a normal map node, which I already have here as well. And so the way that everything's going to connect is I want the color to connect to the factors of my 2, whoops, sorry about that. I want the color to connect to the 2 factors on my color ramp nodes. This color ramp is actually going to feed into the next color ramp as well. And it is also going to feed into the sheen node in our principled BSDF here. The sheen node can be found here. It already has something connected to it. I am just going to disconnect that. Sheen is what gives you that kind of velvet effect where the lighting hitting it in certain angles is going to make it brighter, and if it's not hitting it at that specific angle, you'll see in other places it gets darker. And then the sheen roughness is also a value we're going to be working with. So I want you to connect this color ramp to the strength slot of the normal map. I'm going to go ahead and spread things out a little bit as well. And I'm going to take the normal map connection that I have coming from my U3M node. I'm going to disconnect it from the principled shader and connect it to the color slot here. And then you can go ahead and connect that normal map node then to your normal. And I'm also going to take that color ramp and connect it to the sheen roughness. And then I'm going to take the bottom color ramp and connect it to the sheen weight. Okay, and now we have something like this where we can see the sheen is being affected, and now it's not just randomly being affected, it's being affected, or not overall, it's being affected by our noise texture. This is what our noise texture looks like. So essentially in the noise texture, the darker colors are what we're seeing as the darker color here, and the lighter are the ones that are now reflecting the light. And the reason we created this normal map slot as well that's being affected by our noise texture is we don't want this to just kind of be a layer of sheen that's sitting on top of the material. We want it to actually be affecting the bumps as it would in a velvet material too, because if you brush the velvet up and down, it's going to have different effects on the material, and so we need the bumps to reflect those reflectance values that we're getting in this shader that we're creating. And so then from here, I can start messing with the sliders a little bit, and this part I don't want you to have to think about too much, so I will tell you that we just want to start sliding some of the values up. Feel free to copy exactly what I'm doing here, and then all of these bright white values tend to make things a little bit too intense, so we're going to bring those down a bit. One thing I also want to change is the scale we're working with right now. 1 is much too small, as we can kind of see. Maybe if I bump this up to like 5 or 6, we start to get a more natural, not look at this point, but a natural like scale for this, because the little tiny brushed pieces won't be so consistent and so small all over. And then to get more of the desirable result we're looking for, I want to connect this last color ramp, take the color, connect it to the factor of our mix shader slot. Now we're starting to get in the value range that we want, and we can really start honing in not just how far our sliders are in, but actually the colors themselves. We'll say it's pretty standard practice to just make sure you don't have any perfectly black and white values in all of your materials. So you'll see I'm taking all the blacks and kind of raising them up. I'm taking all the whites and bringing them down a little bit. maybe not that one. But just making sure that nothing is too intense at this point. And once we find a nice little balance on our nodes, something like this, you can see we have a nice simple little velvet shader now. You can always change the scale to get like a different effect than we're getting right now. If I wanted the effect to be a little bit more dense, we can lower the scale like it was before to get something more like that. And if we wanted less happening, we could always increase the scale as well to get larger areas that are being affected. But overall, this is just one simple way to create a relatively easy velvet shader. As I showed you before, things can get a lot more complicated, and you can always just add on to this. If this is something you would like to try and implement, you can mix a different noise texture on top of the one we have using mix shaders, and that could give it more visual variety. If you have something that's a little bit more intense, like little scratches and finger marks and stuff, or handprints where somebody had their hand, you can always add those kind of things on top of this shader that we already created. Mix them in somewhere in the tree. Ideally, you're still getting them connected to the normal and our different sheen outputs. But that's really about it. So yeah, instead of just having one unrealistic overall sheen to this material, we now have a customizable scene where we can generate different intensities in different spots on this material. And once you've done it in Eevee, it should translate over to Cycles pretty well. The lighting and stuff is going to be a little bit different, so there might be some things you actually want to change, like maybe I need to lower some of the values, but overall they do look pretty close here. So I think this is a nice little result for a relatively small amount of effort. Anyways, I hope you liked that, and I hope you give our materials a try. If you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out. If you'd like to know something about a more advanced shader like I originally showed that has a lot more overlay and mix nodes going on, definitely leave a comment and maybe we'll make a video about more complex versions of the same shaders for the same type of materials. Anyways, yeah, definitely reach out